Okay, we are going to continue our classes. Ready? Go.
However, Genesis. Should we start with however? Yeah. Freedom without free will equals slavery. However, Genesis 2 verse 17 lets us know the consequence of our choice, which is death. Commandments, therefore, are meant to save or prevent us from death.
No. Genesis 2:17 lets us know that the consequence of the wrong choice is death. Commandments, therefore, are meant to save or prevent death. So, commandments save us from death. When you obey commandment, you choose life. When you violate order, so order, law and order. Law, commandment is law. Law leads to order. Law is an instrument of order. Commandment is an instrument of order. So law is to bring order to your life. When there is no order, disorderliness brings about death. Disorderliness brings about death. Okay? We talk about, wait a minute. Let's start from here. Freedom.
Freedom without boundary or limitation leaves a man without any choice.
Okay. With freedom without boundary or any limitation leaves. Why am I talking about that? That's because of Genesis 2:17. Let's start from here.
Hence, the first commandment to man is Genesis 2:17. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. Freedom without boundary or limitation leaves a man without any choice.
That is why there was a need for commandment in the Garden of Eden. Because if it's just perpetual freedom, then there is no choice. Then man becomes a mechanic, a robot. He cannot choose. He cannot exercise will. So that commandment, not to touch this tree, install in man the power of choice. Without that, there will be no willpower, and there will be no power of choice. So that commandment is necessary for man to be man, because man cannot be man without willpower. So, but you have the freedom to choose, good or bad. But when you choose to live in disorder, it leads to death. Okay?
Right. Freedom without commandments leaves a man without free will.
Okay, we are going to show you, I want us to show this video. Yeah, the third one here. The video, the third video. Louder. Oh! Start all over. Start all over. Samuel Nashala. This is what lack of order could lead to. That is a typical example of lack of order in the road only. These are the things that lack of order do. When people choose, they have the power of choice. When they choose to disobey order, to violate order, instead of obey order, this is what you get. This is what you get when people choose disorder. This is what you get. So when you see, that's why God put the power of choice to man and gave man willpower. So you have the right to choose life or death. It is a matter of choice. But can you now imagine a situation where there are no laws, where there are no orders, where there are no regulations? So some people will ask the question, why is it that God put the law in the Garden of Eden? Why is it that God put the commandment that don't touch? Because of this kind of thing. Can you imagine there is no law at all? This kind of thing will be there regularly every day. And can you imagine there are no law enforcement organizations? Life without order leads to death. Life without order leads to destruction. Life without order leads to pain. I think we had enough. Or you want to continue worship? I think we had enough. Let's go back to the notes. So the topic of today is the pains of lack of law and order. See the pains. Even you here are feeling the pains. That is when people decide to go against order. That's the kind of consequences that we reap. When people decide to go against rules and regulations, when people choose disorder over order, the pain is greater than the pain of order. The pain of disorder is greater than the pain of order. Let's start reading from here, please.
Lack of law and order leads to loss of freedom. Genesis 2:16-17. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. What God gave man initially was freedom.
So that was freedom. What we saw in that Genesis chapter 2 was freedom. Because what it said is that you have the freedom to choose, the freedom of choice. It was the power of free will. That's what God gave to man in that place. But if there had not been that kind of limitation and that kind of border, that don't touch that one, then it will be anarchy. Because freedom without rules is anarchy. Let's start with hippies, the hippies. Freedom without limit. The hippies, who knows the story of the hippies in the 60s? They are people who like so much freedom. They didn't want any law. They wanted anarchy. Let's play this. Voice, volume, sound. It says mute here, mute here. No, it's here. It's okay. It's on mute now. Now you can play. No. Okay, don't worry. So you see what kind of, in the 50s, this is the hippie. This is the kind of thing that was happening. You know, so it was a kind of, it was a time of chaos. You know, people who are older know what it was. Sex revolution, you know, it was just a kind of chaos. Why is it that the hippie movement stopped? Why is it that the hippie movement didn't get to us? Because anytime you want to advocate for freedom, only freedom, it leads to death. He's dead. Disorder doesn't bring about sanity. Disorder doesn't bring about order. Disorder doesn't bring about growth, progress. It died off. And the people, hippie people themselves, don't wish their children to become like them, like they were. Why? There is nothing like only freedom. Freedom must always have borders, must always be limited. Then it makes common sense. Okay, let's go back. Now let's check Amsterdam light. Yeah. So this is Amsterdam. There is a street there they call Red Light District, where women are going there to sell themselves, prostitute themselves, and offer themselves like products, like objects. So they display them like you display clothes or mannequins. So you see living human being standing there as if it is the mannequins that is standing. And what they are soliciting for is that buy me, I'm available for sale. And see how many people passing by there. Those are human beings over there. In those windows you see, those are human beings standing there. Those are human beings, living human beings. They are turning left and right. Yeah, those are human beings inside those windows. They are living, not their pictures. And it didn't resolve the problem. It didn't solve the problem of prostitution. It never solved it because disorderliness, it doesn't, even though they try to put order into sin, but it's still disorderliness morally. Okay, let's go back to our note. Okay, here we are.
Order without liberty and liberty without order are equally destructive.
Yeah. So that's why if God had given just freedom without any border, it is also destructive. It would have been destruction. So to any amount of freedom, there must be some borders, limits. And then to any amount of limits and laws, there must be freedom as well. Otherwise, it will be destructive too.
Freedom is the first human right God gave man.
Freedom is the first thing God gave to man in the Garden of Eden. The first human right, sorry. No, don't press.
Hence, the first commandment to man in Genesis 2:17, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. Freedom without boundary or limitation leaves a man without any choice.
So that's what we have in Nigeria right now. No laws, just freedom. Everybody just do anything they want. And it has left the country without any choice but poverty and destruction.
Without commandment leaves a man without free will.
Yep. Let's look at Singapore. What is the difference between Singapore and Nigeria when it comes to society? Regimented society. Society of law and order. Playing a musical instrument in a manner that annoys the public will attract the penalty of $1,000. This is Singapore for you. If you do that in Singapore, you are in trouble.
What's happening here?
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try.
Someone else connecting to someone else's Wi-Fi without permission attracts $10,000 fine. $10,000 fine. Hugging in public without asking for permission. Listo. Yeah. Singing. What?
I'm an uptight.
Okay. Using foul words. Yeah. You go to jail for 3 months if you say fuck you or something like that.
Buster!
Foul words. 3 months.
You old horny slut!
If you smoke an e-cigarette, despite being it is safer than the normal cigarette. So if you smoke cigarette, you're going to jail for 6 months. Or pay tithe of $10,000. Let's start again. Let's watch that thing again. That is order. But that is even not if you spit or if you chew gum or do things. Okay, can we start all over again from the beginning? Will you? Can I read it? Okay. Instrument. If you play instrument that annoys people, $1,000 without permission. Without permission. Yeah.
What's happening here?
If your noise, that is like in Nigeria. You play your music, speaker, boo 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 boo. What? Church speakers, yeah. $1,000. In Nigeria, you will fill the budget immediately in 1 year. You will get another GDP immediately. Because in Nigeria, everybody is just doing any kind of thing. Because you are anything that you do like that is not considering the interest of another person, that is irritating to another person, $1,000. Fine. One time. 2 minutes. Next one.
No heaven.
It is irritating.
It's easy.
By
if you
irritating
try.
somebody else in the public like that, you are gone to jail. Number 2, you get connected to somebody else's Wi-Fi. All my neighbors here, they are in trouble. Without permission, that's $10,000 fine. $10,000, you go to jail for 3 years. So what about then stealing? So if that is just Wi-Fi, go to jail for 3 years, $10,000 fine. What about then stealing? What will stealing be? What will robbing be? What will 419 be? What will MMM be like? What will fraud be like? I have a friend right now. His name is Kong Hee. He pastored the biggest church in Singapore. He's now in jail for 6 years. Because he gathered offering in his church and used the offering for evangelism instead of for construction. Because he had gathered the money for construction, but he went and used it for evangelism. He's serving 6 years in jail right now. All Nigerian pastors will be in jail. Mayo, that's another program for you. Go and find Kongi. I will give you the name Kongi in jail. You see the video. Because he used the money for another purpose than people gave it. We are accountability. We are not talking about he didn't give account. He gave account. He submitted the account. He used it not for himself, We are not talking, yes, we are not talking about buying private jet or buying car. If you hug somebody like this without permission, you are going to jail. Number 4. You sing song. What was number 4? Okay, sorry. We got it. I got it. Using words like this. Yeah. Yes. You go to jail as well. 3 months. Or 10,000. You pay 10,000 by using curse words.
I'm an uptight
Curse words, $10,000.
bastard!
Or 3 years in jail.
You old horny slut!
If you smoke cigarette or throw e-cigarette. Okay, e-cigarette is even way better, eh? Talk less of the real cigarette. $10,000 or 6 months in jail. What about if it is real cigarette you smoke? Let's go back to this. So order. But some of the us in Nigeria, we say we want the progress of Singapore. Are we ready for their order? But that's what makes the country to be organized and developed. Okay.
Freedom without boundaries equals bondage.
Yep.
Freedom without free will equals slavery.
Yep.
However, Genesis 2:17 lets us know the consequence of wrong choices, which is death.
Yep.
Commandments, therefore, are meant to save or prevent us from death.
Beautiful. That is order is to save us from death. Okay, but let's continue meanwhile.
God knows how we are made to function and what is harmful for us.
Don't hate.
Don't hate, forgive. Just like any manufacturer knows what could damage his products, God knows what could destroy us and what could enhance our living. Isaiah 48:18-19. Oh, that thou hadst hearkened to my commandments, then had thy peace been as a river, and thy righteousness as the waves of the sea.
You see, if you add into my commandment. But why commandment? Because commandment is law. Law and order. Law leads to order. If you hearken to my law, to my commandment, you would have had peace. You see, law leads to order. Law leads to peace. As a river, and thy righteousness would have been like wave of the sea. Yeah, go ahead.
Thy seed also had been as the sand, and the offspring of thy bowels like the gravel thereof. His name should not have been cut off nor destroyed from thee.
There is no destruction where there is order. Order prevents from destruction. That's what the Bible is saying here.
To love God is the greatest commandment. Love your neighbor because we are made in God's image. God is love.
Perway. Is about diversity. Right? It's a personal, is that?
Pay attention!
There is a clip about diversity. Okay, let's move on. Next. Sharp minutes go. We'll go back here. technological development is as a result of order as well. Scientific breakthroughs is as a result of order. Just let it play while you remove the voice. Zai toca música, dar ninguém gabarit? Ele gabarit. Agostini, no, Gospital. Samuel Luce Gospital. Budet li razgovor ili ne tam. Ili toca música. Arasha. Okay, that t-shirt, alright? This, start all over again. Okay, you can start now. So, these are the best hospitals, the most technologically advanced hospitals in the world, right? And this is all as a result of order. So this is all technological advancement. Order leads to breakthrough technologically. Order leads to scientific breakthrough. Order leads to development. Order prevents death. The reason why hospitals are better than miracles is because it is arranged, it is predictable, it is perpetual. It can be there all the time. Miracles cannot be always there all the time. The miracle worker could die. God might not answer the prayer. The miracle might not. So our investment, our strength, and our energy should be invested in developing technological order, bringing about breakthrough, technological breakthrough. Getting to know about technology, getting to discover things. Instead of all African countries putting all the energy in churches, spending every day in church, we should be spending every day in the laboratory, in research clinics, in the research institutes. It is research, law and order, progress. These are the things we should be directing all the energy of our people to, so that they will, because these are the things that are predictable. These are the things that you can predict. All the miracles in this world, all the miracle workers in this world, they cannot, if God is not going to answer their prayer, there is nothing they can do. But health service, good technological progress can do it. This is as a result of order. All these countries is because they put their priority in the right place. They put their focus in the right place. They directed their country in the right place. They arranged their people. They are focused in the right direction. Not just sending them to church to pray. They work for it. And that's why they get the result. These are the best hospitals in the world. But in my country, even my own president has to travel outside for medical treatment. Because we are going to pray in church. Instead of going to put our resources and efforts in the right things of studying and getting ourselves technologically advanced. While other people are building hospitals, we are building the biggest church, the largest kilometer, hall, 100,000 seater, 3 million seater. What is that give you at the end of the day? All those places will still become empty anyway. But build a hospital like this, and it will serve and save millions of lives. And all those churches, you can have relationship with God without all those buildings. Building is not church. Church is the temple, is the body of everybody. We are the temple of God. These are the things we should be spending our money to build. But in our country, it is house, building, that doesn't produce anything. And those buildings, they spend billions to build. Only on Sundays, people gather in them. It's empty from Monday to Saturday. Once a week. And you spend billions on them. No order in thinking. The right is out. Slide. No order, no constructive order in thoughts. So, to bring order, we need education. To bring order, we need enlightenment. Almost every day, I've been telling you about how Americans brought order to their society. Whenever they saw that there is something lacking, there is something where there is an area of life where they are weak, in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, they will always use film to educate people. Hollywood, and film industry, they will develop a film. Any problem they see in the society that they are having challenges, they will produce a film around it and use it to educate. That is how you have the Western world today, America. They educated their people according to the value systems that they were lacking. That is order. They brought order to their minds, to their way of life, to their thinking process, to their consciousness. They created order in the national consciousness of the people. Let's see an example of how America in 1949, they produced this film in 1949, teaching their people, because they were saying there were rapes, there were issues of rapes, there were issues of divorce, there were issues of, just wrong attitude, young people were not behaving responsibly. They wanted to cop that and correct it. So they created a movie, a film, whereby it was one channel in that time in the whole country. The whole country sat down to be watching this thing. So that's how a new culture was developed. Today, we must use the same strategy. We must involve the media, the Nollywood, film industry, entertainment industry, the musicians, and give them value systems and make sure that we work as a united nation, as an entity, to form the value system that will lead to national development and civilization. Let's see how these people did it. Put on the film, please. Zvuk.
What's that?
Robson, what's that?
Oh, yes, the ticket he told me about. Well, let's see what he has to say. Here's the latest on my broken ankle. Doc says I'll be all right, only I have to
Do we need
stay
to
off
put the
my
microphone
feet
there? No?
for a week or so. Anyway, here's the ticket for the High Tea Carnival. It's too late to turn it in, so you have yourself a time and tell me all about it. One couple. That means a date. Not like just going around with the crowd. Just me and the girl. Well, that's all right. Only, what girl? Who?
How do you choose a date? Whose company would you enjoy? Well, one thing you can consider is looks. Woody thought of Janice and how good-looking she was. He'd really have to rate to date somebody like her. Yes, he'd enjoy that, except, well, it's too bad Janice always acts so superior and bored. She'd make a fellow feel awkward and inferior. Well, perhaps someone who doesn't feel superior. There's Betty, and yet it just doesn't seem as if she'd be much fun. What about Anne? She knows how to have a good time and how to make the fellow with her relax, have fun too. Yes, that's what a boy likes. He wants to know he's appreciated. Anne would be fun on a date. So Woody decided he'd ask Anne for this first date. But just how should he ask her? And what if she refused? No, it won't be easy asking for that first date.
Well, Woody, hi.
Hi, Ed.
What you doing?
Just thinking.
Don't work too hard.
Okay. The bottom line is this, that anything we see, the society
Ed,
that we see,
This private?
no voice.
No,
Stop,
stick
stop
around
the
if you
record.
like.
The society that we see right now, today, in America, in Europe, they are not act by accident. They didn't just come about out of nowhere. People, informed people, created these nations through informed effort, conscious efforts. They created concrete value systems, starting from the days of the Protestants. The Protestant ethics, they established all these values that created the Europe we see today, the America we see today. This is just about dating. This is a long film talking about the do's and don'ts, how to relate to a lady, what to do, what not to do, how to behave yourself, but this is not It could be anything. We could teach people how to treat other people, how to cook in the house, how to use it. Even they were teaching all that. Toothbrush, cooking, dressing, everything. That is how we don't just assume that a nation will just by itself come to consciousness. There must be a concerted effort where the whole nation is nurtured into some value system. That is order. Then we have to create an order in the minds of the people. As the man thinketh, so he is. We have to determine what are the thinking, the value systems that bring about growth. And I've already worked that out. I've already worked out 20 value systems for Nigeria that will lead to development, growth, economic prosperity, and advancement of human development capacity. I've already worked that out. I already have a list of the value system that will take Nigeria to become the first nation in the world. But then we have to have a concerted effort and program on how we are going to inculcate and imbibe these values into the mindset, the thinking system, and the faculty of the society. Just like they have done now. So we shouldn't think it's infringing in anybody's rights or where, it's the dictatorship. That's the biggest democracy in the world. And they did it. But we want to start where they are right now. We don't want to start where they started. We have to also start where they started. We have to start from the scratch and educate our people and work out a program of national enlightenment and build our country based on specific goals, values that will lead to the end result that we expect. It has to be an informed process of building society. Now, when you go to America, these things are no more there. So you will think it's just chaotic. People just became developed in Europe. When you go to Europe, these things are no more there. But they used to be there. Because Europe didn't just become developed. So when we go now, we think they just became like this. So we were trying to imitate them where they are right now without knowing how they got there. But we are just starting our own journey, so we have to start and inform ourselves. What kind of society do we want to see in the next 50 years, 100 years? What are the measures, what are the values that will take us there? And then build a system and plan it out that in the next 3 years, these values must be cultivated. The whole country must speak the same language of, let's say, dignity of labor. Everybody knows that. And the film industry, the churches, the mosques, the families, the education system, the entertainment industry, everybody must be involved in those 3-year programs. So in those 3 years, the whole person in the country know that dignity of labor, nothing is more important than that. By the time we have that, then we begin to tackle all other value systems. Love to your neighbor. For 3 years, for example, we just propagate that in schools, in class, university, everywhere you go, in films, in movies. All films are going to be about it. All music are going to be about that. By the time you know it, everybody wants to care for everybody. And, the principle of the Good Samaritan. By the time you sustain that for 3 years, the whole country will begin to speak the same language. And attention and love and care for other person will replace what we have right now. Then the next 3 years, we could take hard work. Like even if it's just 3 years, it's even too much. By the time we do it for 2 years, 1 year, 2 years, hard work, everybody will just be talking hard work only. So these are the way, what we are supposed to do. Then we take order. For 3 years, talk about order, only order. So we must know what we want, and these are value systems that are leading to something, to growth, to development, to advancement, to civilization, to excellence, to dignity, to productivity. That is how you change a nation. And I'm so appalled that nobody, we have all these politicians. Nobody is talking about this. We have all these government ministers. Government go, government comes. Party goes, party comes. Nobody is talking about it. You want to tell me nobody knows? You want to tell me nobody knows in the whole country? Nobody knows better? Then they must listen to me. Then they have to read my books. Okay, let me just leave them alone. Well, okay, here we are. Who reads?
Yes, sir. However, Genesis 2:17 lets us know the consequence of wrong choices, which is death. Commandments, therefore, are meant to save or prevent us from death.
Okay, I think we did this. Yeah? Have we been here?
God knows how we are made to function and what is harmful for us. Don't hate, forgive. Just like any manufacturer knows what could damage his products, God knows what could destroy us and what could enhance our living. Isaiah 48:18-19. Oh, that thou hadst hearkened to my commandments, then had thy peace been as a river, and thy righteousness as the waves of the sea. Thy seed also had been as the sand, and the offspring of thy bowels like the gravel thereof. His name should not have been cut off nor destroyed from before me. To love God is the greatest commandment. Love your neighbor because we are made in God's image. God is love. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. It's not our job to fix people. It is our job to love them even while they are broken. When we love, we enhance our lives and nature into harmony with our nature. Love cures people, both the ones who give it and the ones who receive it. For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life in Christ Jesus our Lord. God went ahead to give us a manual to study and live by in all aspects of life. Lessons. Number 1, lack of law and order brings us pain, dependency, slavery, death, self-destruction. Number 2, order and laws protects us from pains. God knows what is harmful for us, so he gave us commandments, and the greatest is love. God gave us a manual to life, his word, Bible.
The first one. Where law and order functions. You have the volume.
Number 17, Cat Island. In Japan, you can find a place called Tashirojima Island, where cats are in charge. At Tashirojima, the number of cats is higher than the number of human residents, and that's on purpose. Locals have considered cats to be bringers of fortune, and that is extra true if you take care of them and feed them. So the local cats are treated like royalty, even though most of them are kind of feral since many don't actually keep them as pets. There are currently less than 100 residents in Tashirojima, and those few humans are fiercely protected.
No voice. No voice. You see, in some countries, cats are treated better than human beings. In Ghana, not Africa, not just in Ghana, all of Africa, cats are treated better than human beings. Okay, go ahead, put the volume.
Known as Enchanted City is a place that is known for its amazing and magical structures. However, they're not exactly the man-made buildings you might expect from its name. They're actually a collection of rocks that have been formed into distinctive shapes by the wind and the nearby river. These rocks include memorable shapes like a man's face, hippopotami, a turtle, and even bears. Number 15, Colmar, France. Taking a stroll in Colmar will make you feel like you've walked straight into a children's storybook. The town is often referred to as Little Venice because of its scenic waterways and canals, but is also known for its cobblestone streets and classic European village-style houses. With its fountains and lights in the square, it's easy to feel like you're somewhere magical. It's easy to see why this town was the inspiration for the setting of Beauty and the Beast. Number 14. Hidden Beach. This is the Playa del Amor, which is more commonly known as the Hidden Beach because of its magical seclusion. It looks like something out of a fantasy movie with its wide-reaching sandy beach, crystal blue water, and strange rock formation framing it all. While the archipelago it was a part of was created by volcanic activity, this weird cave beach was allegedly caused by bombs that were being tested or dropped in the area. Number 13. Red Sea Beach. This marshy area in southern China looks like it was made through some sort of special effects or Photoshop, but it's actually a naturally occurring phenomenon. The red grasses of the Red Sea Beach marsh come from a plant called Chenopodium. It thrives in alkaline soil, which affects the chemistry of the plant and is part of the reason why the plants turn red. Staring out into this marsh at the peak of the red season will make you feel like you teleported to another world. Number 12. Neuschwanstein Castle. King Ludwig II of Bavaria wanted a quaint little getaway from everyday public life. So, he built this castle. It's not just any castle, it's one of the most majestic castles you could find anywhere in the world. Construction of the Neuschwanstein Castle began in 1868 and didn't finish construction until 1886. This majestic structure has since been turned into a public museum, and not just a getaway for a king. Number 11. Austrian National Library. This was formerly known as the Royal Library to the Habsburgs, but has since been converted to the Austrian National Library. Its current collection contains around 2.5 million books, some dating all the way back to the 14th century. Along with books, you can find ancient pressed paper, maps, prints, and even music. All of this combined with its extravagant architecture and design makes the Austrian National Library feel truly magical. Number 10. Palace Castle. This Romanian castle was built between 1873 and 1914 on a route that connected Transylvania and Wallachia. It was built in a neo-Renaissance architectural style and would have cost the equivalent of $120 million by today's standards. Of course, the castle comes complete with several murals, statues, and a crazy garden. This picturesque castle seems straight out of a fantasy painting. Number 9. Paro Takstang. The Paro Takstang is a prominent Himalayan Buddhist temple complex and a sacred site built into a cliffside in the Upper Paro Valley of Bhutan. It is also known by the slightly more dramatic name, Tiger's Nest. This scenic temple is known to be built around the cave where Guru Padmasambhava meditated for 3 years. 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days, 3 hours in the 8th century. To find this temple, you have to climb 10,000 feet by either foot or by mule. Number 8. Angkor Wat. Welcome to the City of Temples, otherwise known as Angkor Wat. It is a religious center in the middle of Southeast Asia and has since become the symbol associated with Cambodia. It is of course majestic and beautiful, but is perhaps more striking because of the way the architecture is destroyed. After decades of falling to neglect and ruin, part of the Angkor Wat was reclaimed by nature. Huge trees and roots cover parts of the buildings and even create new forms on their own. Number 7. Wistman's Wood. This is Wistman's Wood, a place known as an oak wood that is the highest oak wood in terms of altitude in England. It has been mentioned in writings for hundreds of years. It's probably the leftovers of an ancient forest that once covered a much larger area than it does now. While the Wistman's Wood is no longer the big and glorious forest it once was, it is still pretty magical. It is known for its mystical green-looking oak trees that seem like something more of a fantastical past. Number 6. Shiratani Unsuikyo Ravine. Japan is home to many famous landmarks, but is also home to some magical places that you probably have never heard of. This is the Shiratani Unsuikyo Ravine that is known for its strange, naturally formed shapes. There are some hiking trails through the forest which actually date all the way back to the Edo period, which was the 17th to the 19th century. The moss-covered forest is actually known to muffle the sound of footsteps and voices, creating a mystical bubble of silence around you once you enter. Number 5. Sot de Brot. Tucked away away near the bottom of the Arus Gorge in Baudry, Switzerland, is the Saut de Brat. It is a beautiful stone bridge that makes for a whimsical scene and photo op. This gorge is a very popular place for hikers to visit because of how cool it looks. Surprisingly, no one really knows the origins of this Tolkien-esque structure, which just adds to the magic of it all. Number 4. Crooked Forest. The Crooked Forest is a truly strange place that seems like it could only exist in a magical fairy tale world. For many years, people didn't understand why these trees are curved into such strange shape. It looks almost as if someone casted a curse on this forest, found on the border of Poland and Germany. Some suggest that the trees were buried under a very terrible snowstorm when they were young, but there is an explanation that is much more fascinating, involving a forester who manipulated the trees into a certain shape, hoping to make furniture out of them. No matter what happened to this forest to make it look the way it does, it is a mysterious and magical place to see. Number 3. Jigokudani Monkey Park. Jigokudani translates into Hell's Valley, named as much because of all the naturally occurring hot water springs that cover the whole valley. It is a strange and magical place that is both hot and cold. Because it's so high in the peaks of the mountains, it's pretty much cold and snowy year-round. But the local monkeys have evolved a fun way to resist the cold. They all take long dips in the natural hot tubs that can be found all throughout Hell's Valley. If you happen to find yourself hiking through this valley of extreme temperatures, you'll get to see the whimsical sight of red-faced monkeys soaking in a hot bath, along with piles of fresh snow and beautiful mountain views. Number 2. Fairy Chimney Inn. With a name like the Fairy Chimney Inn, it's hard to not think of a place out of a fairy tale. This strange hotel is actually carved out of a 15,000-year-old Byzantine cave that people once used to live in. If there's anything that seems like it's straight out of fairy tales, it's thousands-year-old cave tunnels that people used to live inside of, turned into a whimsical hotel. Number 1. Wisteria Tunnel. What could be more fantastical than a tunnel of multicolored pastel flowers? This is the Wisteria Tunnel in Kawachi Fuji Gardens in Japan. It is a tunnel that is covered in hanging lavender flowers. Possibly the most magical part of the Wisteria Tunnel is that for most of the year, it looks completely different. In fact, you might think it looks completely unremarkable or even ugly. It is covered in these flowers that bloom for only a few weeks every year. When the tunnel is in bloom though, it transforms into this magical and beautiful tunnel.
Okay, now why am I showing you this thing? All these things, first of all, every country has things that nature has given to it. But when there is no order, no maintenance, there is no glory in it. It is the maintenance, the effort of man that makes everything to be magical. The efforts of man makes anything to become heaven on earth. But the neglect of man makes every heaven to hell. So every country in Africa has got magical places like this. But the neglect of man turns Africa to hell. Really, Africa is the place that's supposed to have the best of attractions, because it's like Florida in America. Why Florida? Because it's warm all the time. But Africa is more warm all the time. The whole of America is going to Florida. The whole of the world is supposed to come to Africa if it had been taken care of. Yeah. So what am I saying here? All these countries, the best, heavenly places on the earth, none of them is a praying country. None of them is a churchy country. Prayer and fasting don't bring development. Prayer, church going don't bring about progress. The possibility of just praying to have progress is 0.0000000. In fact, what will happen is all Africans will be running to these places despite their prayers. Because everybody wants to live in peace. Everybody wants to live in harmony. Everybody wants to live in serenity. And it is only order. So the only place where those places are heavenly places on earth is because human hands work on them. Human beings build them. Human hands maintain them. People put order in those places. We can create heaven wherever we are. In Africa, everywhere, when we put principles of order and things like that in place. Not by making religion. I'm a pastor myself. But but religion kills. Religion brings people backward. Religion dehumanizes the value of man. We need to downplay religion in Africa. We need to begin to live by principles that Christ brought, value systems. Focus on creativity, on dignity of labor, on diligence, on labor, on hard work, rather than on chasing after shadows of miracles. Through law and order, we can create a better world. But when we neglect law and order, we will have perpetual pain all the time, like we have seen today here. Okay? Can you do the second? I show them passing the video. Okay. No, yeah, let's go back to Perwa, давайте. Или это уже смотрели? Это музыка, да? Это то музыка, да? Нет. Возвращаемся назад. Ты Колумбия так и не нашел, да, как перестроили? Ну, ты же сказала нет. Одно слово, а ты приложили, быстрее говоришь. Не нашла все. Let's do the first one here.
Through a good book, one will live 1,000 lives, meet countless people, weave dreams, pick up character traits, embrace new cultures, and travel to places near, far, and wide. The mind being a person's greatest asset, whatever a person reads will leave a permanent mark, and as such, books have the power to shape a person's entire existence and destiny. Literary experts argue that the measure for the progress and civilization of any nation is in the quality, the number of books, and the number of persons familiarized with reading them. Dr. Aaron Mashenjesi is an associate professor in Makerere University School of Languages, Literature and Communication.
Our horizon of understanding, it also makes us more informed, because we get information about things that we didn't know.
For me, a book is like a journey, You take a journey. For every journey, that's my perspective. I think every journey you take has an impact on you, isn't it?
True.
Yeah? So a book is a journey, a book is life, a book is an experience. And so for me, it's that significant.
They raise concerns about Uganda's reading culture, which according to them has been neglected and leaves a lot to be desired.
We do not make effort to read. Yeah? We do not, it's not part of our habit, it's not part of our daily things that we think about.
Hilda Tuanjerwe is the Executive Director, Uganda Women Writers Association, FEMRIGHT, who says the reading habit can be formed and learned, but it's something that should be taught right from childhood, especially by parents.
We have children. What are we buying for them? What is reading part of what we talk about when these children are growing up? So I think we do not grow up in a book reading culture or a book culture. So instead of buying a book for a present, for example, you buy a cake.
This raises concern about the relevance of the books availed on Uganda's syllabi, right from the lowest levels of learning to tertiary institutions. There are not enough Ugandan books on the syllabi, in spite of Uganda having countless accomplished authors.
Include more local content. That is the way to go. And I'm not just talking about books that are taught in schools or literature syllabi or English comprehensive books, and what kind of stories do you put in there? Are they stories about snow and the Arctic Circle? Are they stories about our society? More local content is what we need. By this I mean that we need more books written about our environment, our setting.
Nobody else, you see, if nobody's going to teach Ugandan literature, it won't be taught in Tanzania, it won't be taught in Kenya, it won't be taught in London, in the UK. And so we are not teaching our literature, but we are busy teaching other people's literatures.
We also spoke to some literature students.
Most of them have ideas that cut across, that involve the Europeans and then even us, the Africans.
Some of these books don't appeal in setting because this is an unfamiliar setting. When they talk of the Wuthering Heights or Whale, we could imagine farms and all that, but it's not so familiar. Yet with the Ugandan books, the setting is so familiar.
They are relevant because they appeal to our emotions. Generally, literature, I've come to realize it's all about things that, they talk about concepts that appeal to our emotions.
Several parts of Uganda's heritage, culture and tourism go unnoticed, and students study and graduate ignorant of their own environment and history because most of what they read has happened in different times and settings. According to Hilda Tuanjedwe, this ought to change, and while foreign written books are relevant, priority should be given to local authors.
How do we balance the menu that we offer our young people in the school system? How do we balance the foreign and the local?
Why have I shown you this one?
Local.
This is a campaign, an effort that was started in Uganda to bring about the reading culture, to generate and create a culture of reading. This is how it's done. Somebody must zero in on a value system and start a campaign on that. It could be any one of us that is watching me right now. That's leadership, maybe leadership. It could be anybody. You know, God might be talking to you who is there. Look around you. What do you have? Look inside your heart. What do you have burden for? That is how we resolve the problem of any society, of any given country. We must be intentional and address and go head on against any vices to create new value system and new culture that is correspondent with development and civilization. Okay, Etasham, Bangladesh. So, yes, is it painful to go through the sliding? Is it painful to go through the process of forming those organizations, NGOs, campaign? Yes, but the pain of not doing them is greater. Is it painful to set up the order to be able to propagate the right value system? Yeah, there is some amount of pain in that. But greater pain is the absence of these things altogether.